his administration is now chock full of these crypto venture capital bros. And do they, in terms of like a constituency that would be the most safe from the increase in prices, I can't think of, I mean, billionaires in general, of course, but really crypto billionaires to me stand out because their whole speculative kind of industry is almost outside of the bounds of everyday commercial goods. They're just kind of out there in the ether betting on things and speculating and like I think the Trump administration is going to try to incorporate cryptocurrency into commercial banking, which could really, really harm the economy. I was talking to Molly White about that. But do you feel like there's a possibility that some of these crypto billionaires that are in his administration would benefit from a crashing economy so they could buy up some depreciated assets and expand on their wealth already?
I mean, they might benefit to the extent it pushes money into crypto, and I guess you're saying away from more traditional assets. He is. I'll go so far in this conspiracy theory to accept that he's rewarding his crypto friends, no doubt. I mean, they're the ones who kind of put him here and made huge contributions to him. But I think it's enough of a reward that he's deregulating, and now he's trying to get the government maybe to even invest in cryptocurrencies themselves. You probably saw that there was actually pushback from all over the political spectrum about how silly that was for taxpayers to actually be here. But I don't think he has to go so far as to crash the economy. On that front, I know people are talking about is this like part of the ultimate agenda? I think that Trump is too beholden to Wall Street and commercial interests to crash the economy. I think that his funders and the kind of people who are pulling the strings behind him care too much about the performance of traditional assets to allow him to do that. So I don't think that's a good story for what motivates him. He's doing bad things, but I don't know. I don't know if
he's just stupid. So he's just, but he sees the number go. We played the Dow just dropping and dropping as he announced these tariffs. I mean, does he just basically say this is going to be temporary and that's that, or is he? I don't know if it's just puzzling to me because everything you're saying is accurate and stuff I would have expected of a previous Republican president, but he's so crazy that it's hard for me to know what this could be leading towards or what's motivating him.
Yeah, I think that he takes pleasure, and he probably recognizes that if we're in this, if he's injecting chaos on a daily basis, embarrassing Zelensky in the White House, or the tariffs, it doesn't really matter. It just feels like we're always kind of on our heels, and we're just reacting to whatever chaos was injected in that day. So I feel like that he believes that there's something good that comes from that. Maybe it becomes impossible for an opposition to ever cohere around some alternative idea if we're just reacting to the insanity that we're being exposed to on a daily basis.
Ryan from Rochester writes in, can the guest touch on the theories that Trump economists are following as to how this impacts the global economy and the complexity of dollar values compared to wages, compared to prices, impacts if interest rates are in different countries, and how other countries stabilize and manage their currencies and economies? I'm not sure.
The question presumes that Trump listens to economists. Now, I know he's got Kevin Hassett there, and I know that Peter Navarro is an advisor. But just to the caller, I want him to parse out the language of the State of the Union address. And I thought I misheard it before going to bed. And I went back and he said 3 times that his solution, for example, to the inflation problem was to reduce waste and fraud in the government. He said it 3 times. So it couldn't have been a mistake. And when I read something like that, I just wonder, where are the economists? There are economists all over the political spectrum peddling, demand side theories or supply side theories, or workers are to blame. But waste in government was like a new one for me, and it made me think that there are no economists in the room, right? So to your caller's question, his economists probably know something about the effect on interest rates and the strength of the dollar, but I don't think they're getting through. I don't think they have a voice in this administration.
Well, you touch on it. He bragged about the lowering of interest rates in the State of the Union address, which happened because people were panicked about the tariffs. Does he even understand that?
No, and what he also doesn't seem to understand is that he, just like Biden, speaking of interest rates, are in a tug of war with the Federal Reserve. And the Reserve is not going to budge if they think that inflation is high or if he's injecting forces that are going to push it higher. And the tariffs do that. He has no plan for the price of auto insurance or rentals skyrocketing. Every day you open up a story about another sector soaring in prices. Eggs, and so to me, he's setting up conditions under which the Fed is going to permanently keep interest rates high, right? And this is going to act as a drag on the economy. So,
Right.
If he wanted to get serious about spurring growth, he should figure out what do we have to do to basically mollify the Fed so that they drop their interest rates. And while he's talking about tariffs and waste and fraud as his solution for inflation, the Fed is just sitting there saying to themselves, my God, he's lost and we're just going to keep these things high. So I feel like he's got some serious headwinds against him. I don't want to scare listeners into thinking that we're going into recession, but he is going to be under tremendous stress in the next few months with stock market, GDP numbers coming in, and we could be in for some scary, bumpy times.
And my question is, how does Silicon Valley play into the potential for these bumpy times? Like the whole AI bubble that we're seeing, right? That DeepSeek just took a hammer to, I guess, because of how cheaply the Chinese AI model was able to create create itself, or how cheap it was, compared to the endless speculation and investment in artificial intelligence here in this country. Can you speak to the fact that there's so much wealth right now that's being hoarded in kind of tech speculation and the precarity that may create in our economy right now?
Yeah, I think that Silicon Valley is enjoying the show. In fact, I mean, they were sitting around him in the inauguration, and they made massive contributions. I think that this is what they wanted. They want deregulation. They want the elimination of government, and so AI. He's even now talking about subsidizing AI, as I think you mentioned, like a government program that actually subsidizes it, despite the fact that it's been revealed that we don't need this massive investment to achieve the same kind of gains. As an aside, I know he would never take this into consideration, but the environmental impacts of what the servers are doing in the background, to generate the kind of power needed for the AI is just devastating. And it just seems to me that it's an activity that is overblown, that has been revealed to be inefficient, is spewing out negative externalities. Sorry, for a little econ speak there. It is the last industry in the world that we should be subsidizing, right? If anything, we maybe should be taxing it or doing something to discourage it, or letting the air out of the bubble. But I think that Silicon Valley, they don't need subsidy. I think their agenda is just to defang government. They'll take a subsidy, of course. I mean, Elon's entire businesses, whether it's Tesla's, getting money from the government, billions of dollars, in the around 2015, or Starlink now. I don't know if you saw, Starlink has twisted some arms of Commerce departments. Yes. The broadband subsidy is going to apply now to inferior satellite services. Of course, SpaceX. So Elon, though, I think is an exception in Silicon Valley. I mean, Elon's businesses depend largely on government subsidy, which is, you're getting me started, which is so ironic why he's the guy in charge of finding waste, in the government.
Right.
Setting that aside, other parts, Apple's, Google's, and Facebook's, they seem just to want instead kind of a hands-off, laissez-faire approach, and I think they would be content with that, and that's what they thought they were getting by buying in, to the Trump administration.
I'm wondering if you could react here, Hal, to this clip from this morning of, you mentioned Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald are deeply invested in both, like, the satellite commercial space field as well as cryptocurrency. And so him being Commerce Secretary, he's kind of my pick for the most under the radar horrific cabinet selection right now.
Villain? Is villain?
What'd you say?
Villain.
Villain.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's asked here this morning, I guess this is on CNBC, about the shaky stock market, and this was his reaction. I'm wondering if you could decode this for us.
This, Secretary Lutnick, does the president want a rising stock market? Because we do have stocks 6% off the highs, and confidence is being shaken here a little bit around business. I know you guys wanted lower interest rates, and you're getting that, but kind of for the wrong reasons, because now there's worries about growth and potentially recession because of a trade war.
The president wants American growth and American prosperity. Okay, and the fact that the stock market goes down 0.5% or 1%, it goes up 0.5% or 1%, that is not the driving force of our outcomes. Our outcomes are driven by, we want factory production in America. We want employment to explode in America. We want training for the new AI industrial revolution to happen in America. We're going to bring factories back to America. We're going to rebuild Michigan. We're going to rebuild Ohio. Why do those auto plants go to Canada? Why would we have auto plants go from Michigan to Canada?
This, Secretary.
All right. So that's his reaction to her question about the shaky stock market. The AI industrial revolution, that's an anachronism. There is nothing industrial about this. This is all mindless speculation. Like, at least the robber barons of the Gilded Age built railroads. These guys are just tech nerds.
Yeah. There's nothing real behind their product.
No.
Howard said something a lot worse. I thought I've got a worse Howard quote, which is he said he wanted to potentially take out government spending from the GDP figures a few days ago.
Right.
That was really scary to me. And I am going to react to the quote, but I just want to make sure that this one, your viewers get to hear this, because Elon was suggesting that Keynesian economics was flawed and that we were too dependent on government spending. And then the next day, Howard said, we're considering taking public spending out of our economy measures. And that is actually a tactic of authoritarian regimes, to deflect and to mask some of the injury that they're inflicting on the economy. So that was really scary.
That's very Putin-esque, is my understanding, and how Putin does that.
Something the Chinese have been accused of doing. Right?
Yeah.
But in Howard's defense, I did go back and look at the stock market. We did have some bad days, but if you compare it to November 4th, the election day, we're about where we were, in November 4th. So, I don't think that we should measure his performance based on a few days of stock performance. I do think that the Atlanta Fed's projection of a recession, not a recession, but a contraction, in the first quarter, is more powerful than what the stock market did in a few days. Now, the irony, of course, is that Trump famously said, this was in the 2012 era, he said any president, who oversees the stock market going down by 2% for X days in a row ought to lose his job.
Should be impeached, right? Yeah, or something like that.
He does care. He does care about the stock market. I do think, and it's because he thinks that's a measure of performance, even though it's not necessarily a great one. And that's what his backers, the financiers, care about. So I do think it is painful for him to look up in the morning and see the score on the scoreboard. I mean, it looks like he's losing, and in his mind, it's probably hard for him to get out of bed in the morning.
And when I guess my final question for you is, I guess, some other unions had a bit of a more positive reaction to the tariff announcement than Democratic partisans. Does that speak to what you're saying about the lack of kind of vision on the Democratic side that could combat this silliness? Like, at least, what is our answer for globalization and free trade?
The answer has to be, what can we do? What kind of policies can we formulate to support workers and to support higher wages? Right. And that attitude was largely jettisoned from the party. If you think of the Clinton era and the Obama era, those guys put prices first. So in their worldview, workers were almost secondary. In fact, were almost pushing against, to the extent that wages were pushing up prices. In their view, workers were part of the problem. And they sent the jobs to Mexico, and Trump is exploiting this. And so it's no surprise why the Democrats lost the working class voters, right? And so now they have to be very careful on when they speak, right? That they care about workers, they care about wages, they sympathize with the idea of relocating plants. But the solution is, how do we get those plants back in a coherent and consistent manner that doesn't inject chaos and that doesn't cause, prices to spiral? I feel like there's a message there, but you got to start with worker welfare, and that's been missing.
Hal Singer, really appreciate your time today, breaking this all down for us, economics professor at the University of Utah. Thanks so much. Good to talk to you.
Thanks. It was fun.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.